Welcome to the official lineup announcement for the automation class races, beginning with the Shelby Industries Afterburner, designed by one Shelby 427.
Somebody needs to tell this Shelby 427 person about the concept of front tires, since this weird, stupid-looking car doesn't seem to have any, just dinner plates at the front.
Those are drag front tires, and they are very light, idiot. Next up, in the 39th seed, we have the Fortka, designed by one Brino, and with an interesting story. We were originally planning to use a tuned version of this car, but its acceleration was too good, and it couldn't stay straight on the dirt course, so the car had to be detuned so it could race.
Also, it has an absolutely awful name, for some reason.
Next up, in the 38th seed, we have the Lampati Gamma Evoluzione, which is the most long-winded name ever, and was designed by one Hesai. Now Hesai, if you're watching this, you've done a great rally car, good job on that, but please learn to name your cars things that normal people can say without 3 hours of lessons and a degree in Italian.
Also, make your cars faster, this one's pitiful.
Next up, in the 37th seed, we've got the Landrover Defender, because spelling can be hard, and we have a feeling it might be hereditary, given it was designed by one Genexich.
I'm sorry, what the hell is a Genexich?
It sounds like a Chinese rip of a Swedish hypercar maker, so that's my working theory on what that is, but I've really no idea. Now introducing, in the 36th seed, a sizable SUV that's here for some reason, known as the Atlas Turbo, designed by one, and I'm just reading off the paper they gave me, Xander 95. Now, Mr. 95, what demon possessed you to make this 8.1-liter behemoth thing, and why do you hate the trees?
I'm rooting for it. Death to the trees, death to the trees, death to the trees.
Next up, in the 35th seed, we have a much less awesome and much smaller SUV thing. Look like this one was actually designed to sell instead of just to be insane. Called the Ground Lover Conqueror 2014, and designed by one Sir Jinko, and I have to ask, why are we racing this little SUV thing, and how the hell did it get seeded 35th?
More importantly, why is it so white?
Ignoring him, we now have the 34th seed. We have a little city car looking thing, called the Fitz Rally, though I have to point out, it isn't very good at rallying, at least compared to the competition, but anyway, the car was designed by one Ferrac02. Now, perhaps, in a normal rally series, this car would be a star, but here in the Beam Racing League, you'll need more horsepower and more cylinders to keep up, sorry. Now, somehow, in the 33rd seed, we have another SUV thing, this time one called the Serpent Contender, and this one designed by one Russ by Tooth 28. And I hope to comment on these names because they're all absurd. People, use regular names that we can pronounce, please, my tongue is bleeding already, and we're not even through the bottom 10.
More importantly, why is there so many SUVs in all these racing series? Seriously, there have to be better cars than shrunken people carriers pretending to be sporty off-roaders.
Now entering, in the 32nd seed, a car titled the Rally Machine, because that sounds like anything other than a trademark trap of some kind, and was designed by one Ruku Dragon. And we're back to the stupid names, this time with both the car and the designer. I give up.
And on top of all that, it looks like a purple Beetle with jacked up suspension, and it handles like a hovercraft that's low on charge. Now, next up, in the 31st seed, we have a car called the Rally Boat Trim 4, because giving cars real names and real trim titles is so last week. This car was designed by one Gaffistic, and I must say that he's done a very nice job with the styling, though it seems a bit big and heavy, which doesn't really fit the whole light, quick, grippy rally car thing, but I guess you're the expert. If you're wondering what happened to Peter, he got tired of the dumb names and of his tongue bleeding, so he left. I'll be introducing the rest of the cars, for better or worse.
Next up, in the 13th seed, we have the holy crap, people give your cars normal names, please. The Monster Auto Brutus 4x4 V12 Monolith, made by one, here we go, 1 Pikaka 11.
And now we're crossing into copyrighted stuff, and that SUV is shooting fire out of its hood, because that is what my life has come to at this point, saying sentences like that, but whatever. It's fine, let's move on.
Now pulling up, in the 29th seed, we have SDMVC, which is a slight improvement over previous names, designed by one Kieski Tire, and we're right back off the cliff, but by the looks of this behemoth, we'll be fine when we hit the ground, though I have no idea how this thing goes around a corner without needing new tires.
It doesn't, it just uses pre-balled tires when on the road so nobody notices and hopes for the best.
Next up, we have a car with an actual name for once, the Pioneer Savannah, a car designed by one Autism Powers, and it is, for some reason, very purple. I have to ask, why would anybody voluntarily paint their car purple? This is a legitimate question. I will be reading the comments for answers. Please tell me, because I have no earthly idea how you decide to paint your car purple. Disregarding the purple, we have, in the 27th seed, the Trophy Truck 4x4, one of the best dirt vehicles we have, designed by one Ferox02. Oh, Mr. 02, I'd like to introduce you to this great thing called colors. With colors, you don't have to use maximum boring gray for every inch of your car, it's brilliant, really. Now, next we have, in the 26th seed, the Celica Fidelia GRSBX, an unmodified family sedan designed by one Reiko's CF Imolgo. And I seriously do not believe that this car is completely unmodified and has managed to get 26th seed on one of the best dirt times on top of all that.
Also, those weird gold wheel things look absolutely awful, remove them as soon as possible, that's an order.
Now, rolling up, in the 25th seed, we have what appears to be some sort of weird hill climb modified van thing, apparently called the GB5 Hill Climb, designed by one Spec Racer Z.
I have so many questions for the dude who designed this car, starting with why, and maybe how, and finally which drugs were you on when you had this idea, and where car I get some, for, research purposes.
Next up, in the 24th seed, we have a very, very orange hatchback thing, apparently called the Photon Piranha, which, though it makes no sense is a pair of actual words, so I'm happy. This car was designed by one Nafon 14, and I'll admit, aside from the orange, he's done quite a good job on the styling. Give the limits on styling imposed by the hatchback body shape unnecessary practicality. Now pulling up, in the 23rd seed, we have a truck called the Proto 2, and it looks like the designer, apparently one Cyberd, forgot to give his super truck thing an actual name and JT went with the concept name from when it was a shell car, for whatever reason.
Why are there so many overly powerful SUV truck things? This is like the 10th one, and we're not even halfway through the roster yet.
Now introducing, in the 22nd seed, a car with more than 800 horsepower and only 3 cylinders, the Xavier SS Turbo, which is an actual, proper-sounding car name for once. This is a cause for celebration. This car was designed by one Shadow Unicorn Gaming, and we almost had a normal car name with a normal person name. We were so close, so close.
So close.
Now we have, into 21st seed, the Hanakas concept, a diesel supercar, because people are determined to create one of those that's actually good for some reason. This particular one was designed by one It's No Use, and I promise I'm reading exactly what I have written on the paper they gave me with the info. Oh, these cars, seriously, that's his name? I do not know why.
Get normal names, people, please.
Now, we are halfway through this season's competitors, and we have the 20th seed, the Casoro Roquetto, a car with a very boastful name for 20th seed. This overconfident car was designed by one, presumably overconfident, Core 2 Duo 7402, or something like that. This just looks like a random string of numbers, not an actual name of anything. More or less a person in the real world. Whatever, let's move on to the 19th seed, the first of several Stiveb Motors vehicles, the Stiveb Motors W6, a sort of raised and modified luxury sedan thing. This whatever you want to call it was designed by one Stiveb 2002, a fact which really should not surprise anybody given the name of the car.
More importantly, what on earth is this called? Looked at the paper and it called it a crossover, but it does not like a crossover, it looks like a defiled sedan, and I demand to know why.
Disregarding that thing, we have, rolling up into the 18th seed, what is hopefully the last of the fast-ish SUVs, the Vertex Cannon. This particular SUV was designed by one Squirrel 001.
I'm pretty sure squirrels are not known for their ability to design high-performance SUVs, so why don't you explain that to me?
That's just his name, you absolute idiot. Now introducing, in the 17th seed, we have the Kaisai Emperor or something like that. I really have no idea how to pronounce this word or most of the names that we have, but especially this one. This car was designed by one Radarji, and I'm almost certain I did not pronounce that right, but at this point, I don't care, I'm just going with it.
Why is it purple? Make it not purple. That's an order.
Now we have, another Stiveb Motors vehicles, and another weird SUV crossover thing. Please let it be the last SUV crossover thing, the Stiveb Motors W3R. This car was designed by one, and I'm seriously going to have to talk to this guy, Stiveb 2002. Allow me to make something clear, no more SUVs will be tolerated. Understand? Good. Now, moving on, forgetting about the SUV crossover things, we have, in the 15th seed, the Volkswagen Sportsvan Race. This car was designed by somebody who was either extremely high or extremely damaged, possibly both, apparently one India McM, a name which definitely supports my theory in every way a name could.
I wasn't paying attention, why is there a van?
Ignoring him, we have, in the 14th seed, what appears to be some Kid City Econo-Orb thingy, except designed by a maniac, apparently called the Eco LSD. This weird thing was designed by one Rinaimi, a person who is clearly insane in any and every way possible. Mr. Rinaimi, please seek help. Please talk to a professional.
This thing looks awful, please remove it from my site immediately.
Agreed, but now we need to talk about the 13th seed, the Sabu's B1000 HP van, the third and hopefully final supervan thing. This particular and particularly orange supervan thing was designed by one Buzz Brox, because there was something wrong with normal vans and normal paint jobs apparently. Seriously, is there a market for these types of vehicles? Do people buy them? Well, moving on from weird fast vans, we have a very bluntly named vehicle, the Supersport. This very race car-esque car was designed by one in Senegal, a name befitting of somebody insane enough to design or drive a car like this. Since it's got so much power, it barely goes in a straight line, and it does not like corners. I feel like this car is going to get somebody killed, somehow. Oh well, the death of the drivers or spectators is really not my problem, I just talk, so I'm going to introduce the 11th seed in our lineup, the Ibo hypercar, named after legendary driver and businessman YB. This particular car was designed by one Boa Kanichapi in commemoration of YB and his many accomplishments, as well as a car for him to drive, because apparently some people drive cars on the road. Next up in this year's lineup, we have what seems to be some sort of Latin or Greek car based on the name, the Deus Velox. This was apparently not developed by the Pope for some automotive crusades, but rather by one Rix Regum 93, who definitely sounds like he might be Greek or Roman, or basically anything else, as that looks less like a name and more like a code or really secure password for a computer. Next up we have a car with a name I can at least somewhat pronounce, in the 9th seed, the 2020 Record Speedster. This car was designed by one Minigunman 1, and I promise that is exactly what it says on the paper, not a single letter out of place. That is his name. I swear.
Why is it called the Record Speedster? It's not even the fastest car here. Come on, people, don't lie.
Well, ignoring that false advertising, we have the 8th seed, and you're going to have to bear with me for a second, 4210 Hypersport Post-Recall. This car was designed by one Mac Renault. Now, Mr. Renault, what was the recall? Is this car going to explode? I need to know because I might be busy, or something, and not come every time this car races, coincidentally, of course. Well, moving past the possible danger of explosion, we have the 7th seed, the long list of random letters, or, if you want to be pedantic, the LMC Tempest NCV16. This random string of characters was designed by one Dietrich Wiles, which also sounds like a random string of characters, but apparently, it is not. Also, why is this car so yellow? It makes no sense. Apparently nobody at Automation knows how to paint. Next up, we have, in the 6th seed, a very obviously lying car with a very misleading name, and I swear this is exactly what it's called, the Just and Everyday Saloon. This weird, lying, misleading car was designed by one, most likely highly untrustworthy, Thief Kit 101-2. Personally, I would not trust this man or this car with anything, especially not with getting me where I want to go. Now, moving on from that occurrence, we have, in the 5th seed, possibly the coolest looking car in the entire tournament, and with the coolest sounding name, the Singularity RX. This extremely cool car was designed by one Oxale, who I assume is also extremely cool in every way possible, just like the car he designed. Good for you. You managed to design an actually decent car, unlike most in this tournament. Next up in this year's rather diverse, interesting, and at some times confusing lineup, we have the, and I'm just reading the paper they gave me, the OWTF, which has to be the worst car name we've seen all evening, which is really saying something given some of the names we've seen. This car was designed, and presumably named, by one Vancure. He is responsible for this terrible name. Now, let's try and move past that name by introducing the 4th seed, and it's almost as bad, the 300 miles per hour Monster 2. This car was designed by one, and this might be the worst and most pointless name yet, one TRM7, This car aggressively red, for some reason, and has possibly the widest tires I have ever seen on a car, and it is shaped like a door stopper because of course it is, why wouldn't it be? There seems to have been a mistake. The 300 miles per hour Monster 2 was the third seed, and this is the second seed, the 2018 Steveb Motors RS100. This is the third Steveb vehicle, at least, and was designed just like the other by one Steveb 2002. Mr. 2002, please calm down with the car designing. You can make fast sedans and SUVs. We get it, you can calm down now, okay? Okay. Now, finally, we have made it to the line up to the first seed, the Kulengra SRT8. This car was designed by one Travisoli, and with that, we are officially finished. I hope you have enjoyed this introduction. Please get normal names, I'm begging you. We will see you at this season's automation class races, which David and I will be narrating, or at least trying to narrate. Until then, goodbye.